It's a pleasure to be here. I'm going to be talking about integrating industry and job relevant skills into curricula and sharing Coursera's perspective. Over the last 5, 6 months, and even before that, of course, we've been working with industry, we've been working with higher education institutions, and this has, of course, changed dramatically because of COVID. And given the size and scale of the number of individuals that we touch, we have the opportunity to share some of the insights that we're seeing, some of the trends, and how we are all learning together. So let's jump in with that. I'd like to spend a little bit of time talking about how we are seeing COVID-19 impacting jobs, and then also talking about how we are seeing impact on higher education, and then spend some time talking about how Coursera is thinking about this and how we are approaching some of our work. Now, it's important to call out right at the start that COVID-19 has disrupted jobs and accelerated the need for technology in higher education. And the numbers are absolutely staggering. So we know from the International Labour Organization that there are almost 435 million jobs around the world that are at risk. Many of these have gone away. Some of these will come back, and some of these may not come back permanently. And then also the number of students, both in K-12 schools and higher education, is quite significant, almost 1.6 billion students around the world. Along with that, we've seen a very significant increase in the adoption of online courses, and the data point here, 644% increase, is a Coursera data point. So on the Coursera platform globally, we have seen this increase over the months of March and April compared to last year. And I think we're seeing in general that there's a fairly significant growth in online course enrollments. And of course, as many of you would know, this is the asynchronous, MOOC type content that I'm kind of referring to with this data point. And then the last point here, which is that we are seeing regulators in many countries around the world playing an increased role in allowing online content being used for credit. And in India, for example, the regulator UGC-AICTE has been talking about increasing this from 20% currently to 40% going forward, given, again, COVID and the impact of all of that. So these are some of the broad trends that we are seeing, which are impacting all of us around the world. Now, in this context, a few weeks ago, we released Coursera's Global Skills Index. This is the second edition of this report. And as a part of this report, we look at insights from 60 million plus learners on Coursera across 60 countries, 10 different industries, and so on and so forth. And I'd love to just show you some of the insights that we are finding from this report. The full report, of course, is available on the Coursera website. Now, the first one, which I think from a business standpoint, and I say this when we work with companies, is quite telling, right? This is a chart which says on the x-axis, the average skill proficiency in an industry, and Coursera is able to measure that given just the, kind of courses, the kind of assessments that people from various industries take on our platform. And here, this is average skill proficiency across business, technology, and data science. And then on the y-axis is industry stock performance. And the headline here is that industries with more skilled talent, especially in technology skills, are seeing higher stock returns and less disruption from COVID-19. And as one can imagine, this is a telling statistic, right? Linking the level of skill proficiency in a company to the stock performance of the company. This puts the importance of skills right on the table of the CXO. And while the y-axis data is public information, the x-axis data is something that we've been working on and we've kind of put out there. And we're finding that if companies have, and this is at an industry level, but we're seeing that the same applies at a company level, where companies that are investing in, skilled talent in technology skills, there is a direct correlation with stock returns and with their resilience during COVID-19. The other thing that the Global Skills Index does is it looks at different regions of the world. And as I mentioned, it looks at 60 countries around the world as well. And let me share a little bit about what we are seeing in Asia, in ANZ specifically. So, what you'll see, and there's quite a bit of information on this slide, but we classified countries based on their skill levels into cutting edge, competitive, emerging, and lagging. And the report tells us that New Zealand comes in a number of skills in cutting edge, so absolutely top quartile. And then Australia comes in competitive, so second quartile there. We're also seeing that there's a very large skill divide. So, there are countries in Asia which are developing nations, which might be actually in emerging or lagging categories of skill performance. And then we're also seeing from an industry standpoint that tech and data science are very, very important skills that almost all businesses across 10 different businesses are investing in. I'll skip some of the other detail and share a little bit of what we're seeing in terms of ANZ and how the countries rank compared to the global markets, the developed markets around the world. And again, this is focused on business, technology, and data science skills at a broad level. These are the domains where we see businesses building the maximum amount of skills on the Coursera platform. And in business, ANZ together come in the top 20. I think the two countries are at about number 15 and 18 or so. And so within Asia, Singapore is at number 10. Within technology, it's a little bit down the line at about 25. The two countries come in. And then within Asia, the other two countries that are in the upper kind of levels are Vietnam and Japan. And then finally, I think there's an opportunity to further work on data science, a relatively newer field per se, but also very, very important field from a business standpoint, given just the explosion of data and the explosion of data analytics around the world. And here, ANZ come in at in the top 30, with Hong Kong and Singapore leading the way in APAC. And from a higher education standpoint, the message here is the following. Skills matter very significantly at a CXO level, especially in a COVID-impacted world. And within those skills where businesses are investing, our technology and data science, those are the primary domains that they are investing in, with significant variation in the levels across Asia Pacific, across different countries. Now, with this, let me share a little bit of some of the work that we've been doing. So we launched a Coursera campus response initiative back in the middle of March, and we made our platform Coursera for Campus available for free to universities and colleges around the world. And let me share a little bit of what we've been seeing. So, of course, universities have been responding very, very significantly. Globally, almost 10,000 programs have been launched, and there are 1.5 million students currently learning on the Coursera for Campus platform. They've taken close to 9 million courses, and a staggering 24 million hours of learning have been taken in the last 5 odd months. A lot of this is in the Asia Pacific region. So if you look at students enrolled, if you look at course enrollments that have been taken, very, very staggering numbers. And so what I'll share with you is coming from the insights that we are drawing on the back of some of this large data. The other thing that we are seeing in our conversations is these 4 broad trends. As and when campuses do open, blended classrooms, so some students online, some students in a physical class, is likely to be the first phase at which many campuses may open. Second, as I said, online courses and also credentials. So higher education is recognizing these credentials more, because certainly businesses are recognizing these credentials. So we're seeing a bigger participation of online courses and credentials. Pressure on tuition fee and cash flows, and a very significant increase in the job relevant need for higher education as well. So some of the work Coursera has been doing through this period of crisis, of rapid change, but also opportunity to kind of significantly change how traditionally higher education has been delivered, is what I'll share in the next few slides. And I'll go over these fairly quickly so that there's some time if there are questions. And please do feel free to post them in the chat. There might be some time to take a couple of these questions towards the end. So we think about ourselves as a global learning ecosystem with 3 pillars. There are learners, educators, and institutions. a large number of learners on the Coursera platform, upwards of 65 million, of which almost about 17, 18 million are in the Asia Pacific region. There are 200 educators, so universities and industries and companies who create content on our platform. Top universities, including 5 universities in Australia, University of Melbourne, University of Sydney, and other top universities who create content on our platform. And also companies. We've been partnering with leading companies over the last 3 years now to bring their content onto Coursera. And Atlassian, for example, from Australia, also is an educator, a content creator on the Coursera platform. And then finally, institutions. So Coursera works with businesses, governments, and campuses. And even before we launched Coursera for Campus, which was late last year, and it's the newest addition to these institutional platforms, we'd started working with businesses and governments, and you'll see almost 2,500 businesses around the world, which I was sharing some insights from over here. Now, Coursera for Campus has been designed to provide learning and prepare students for jobs of the future, largely 5 elements. So the first, of course, is content. And as I said, this comes from the world's top universities and companies. And a lot of MOOCs, are being used by universities and colleges, the 10,000 institutions that I spoke about. The second thing that we've done is we've realized that, with COVID, this is accelerating, but enabling all faculty, there are 25,000 plus degree granting institutions around the world, and enabling them to create projects, assessments, courses online is going to be extremely important. So we're bringing our technology tools, our expertise to enable faculty to author content. Third, hands-on learning. So along with the knowledge, something called guided projects, which we launched 3 months ago, to provide hands-on learning. Fourth, job-ready skills, which is bringing our knowledge of working with industries to bring things like the essential skills map, skill development dashboards to higher education. And then finally, a technology platform which is scalable. It can integrate into the tech infrastructure of a university or a college. I'll share a little bit of some of these without getting into a lot of detail. Many universities, around the world have adopted Coursera for Campus. This is a quick snapshot of some of them across, all the regions of the world. And our sense is that many universities are thinking that the COVID-19 impacted change is a permanent shift. Possibly, when campuses do go back to opening, we may see a situation where 20-30% of learning stays online, and possibly 80% or so might come back onto campus. And many of these institutions are now getting into long-term investments to say this is how we imagine the future of higher education might play out. And what these universities are doing is they're thinking about using online content on Coursera into their university curriculum in these 3 mechanisms. The first 2 for credit, the third not for credit. And within the first for credit use case is standalone. So a standalone MOOC course on Coursera, possibly 12 to 15 hours being provided as a for credit course. And this would, in many cases be a kind of a course which may currently not being taught on campus. So in a biomedical program, if Internet of Things is not being taught, possibly that IoT course on Coursera being used as a for credit standalone course. Blended learning, of course, is obvious, a Coursera course being used as a part of a flipped classroom, as prerequisites, running in parallel to a class, and so on and so forth. And then in many cases, multidisciplinary learning. So management students taking data analytics, given just the importance of data analytics, or even medicine students taking data analytics for that matter, and so on and so forth. So these many institutions that we're working with us are finding value in thinking about adopting online and then using content to align with job readiness for students. Of course, this content comes from these institutions around the world, and I spoke about this. So let me move forward. And then guided projects. This is the hands-on learning piece that I mentioned briefly. And the intent here is to provide, now in most forms of higher education, learning a software tool that will be helpful in a job is becoming increasingly important. And what we've done here is we've enabled a virtual machine where many softwares can be used and learned on the virtual machine by a learner. It's a machine where on the right is an instructor's screen who's pre-recorded a lesson or a project for a student to follow along. And on the left, without having to actually buy a software, install that software, get a computing machine which can handle the software and so on and so forth, the student can come and learn that particular software and do a guided project. And the screenshot is an example of Tableau, which of course is used in data science, which is a guided project available on Coursera. And very quickly, over the last 2-3 months, we've built up to about 250 of these guided projects, each of 1 to 2 hours in duration. And we're seeing very strong traction from students around the world, in higher education, taking these guided projects. And that's giving us momentum to say, let's get close to 1,000 projects, guided projects on our platform by the time we get towards the later parts of this year. And then, like I said, as a part of the Global Skills Index, we've been able to measure and track skill development. And this is a view that we use with our work with companies a lot, where we're able to, based on the level of proficiency of a particular course and the performance of a learner, we're able to share the skill level of a learner. And I'm sorry for the small font size, but I'll read this out. What it says on top is data analysis. And this is a snapshot of a company which has upwards of 1,100 people using learning data analysis on the Coursera platform. And basis the kind of courses that they're taking and the kind of performance that they have on their assessments, we're able to show to the company whether a group of learners is at a conversant level, at a beginner level, at an intermediate level, and finally at an advanced level. And our sense is that higher education will also start seeing value in this kind of skill measurement, other than just the traditional grades and CGPA scores and so on and so forth. Because here the opportunity to benchmark not just within higher education but across industry also starts becoming available. And so the way some of these universities that we've been working with are now starting to think about using a combination of on-campus and online is illustrated with this example on engineering. And so, this is an undergrad engineering student who's already taking 4-credit, programs at his or her university. And Coursera is partnering with this university to say, let's bring content from top reputed universities from around the world, from companies, and then finally guided projects. And we're seeing many universities are seeing value in setting up students for success in their jobs and careers, especially given the rapid change in skill needs, as I kind of referred to right at the start. And so we took engineering as a topic and we said, if you look at computer science, not just doing an engineering, a BTech in computer science is sufficient anymore, but a specialization in possibly topics like cloud, big data, cybersecurity, and AI are what students should be thinking about. And then also in more traditional, I would say, engineering streams, and I'm a mechanical engineer myself, but thinking about career paths in the areas of additive manufacturing, mechatronics, Internet of Things, digital manufacturing, and some of these is becoming the areas where a lot of exciting job opportunities are available. And so we deep dived into, as an example, I'll show you what a career path in artificial intelligence for a computer science engineer could possibly look like. And so, this is a double click on a career path in AI. And this is an example of Coursera content, being aligned to foundation or even core courses, electives, and then finally industry experience. And so some foundational courses, on AI for everyone from Coursera's co-founder, Andrew Ng, or machine learning, from University of Washington. Then courses in electives for specializations like deep learning, recommender systems, natural language processing, and so on. And then finally, using guided projects, the very valuable industry experience. And so as examples, build a deep learning based image classifier with R, and projects in Python, and so on and so forth. So this is kind of a good approach that we are using with universities, and they're seeing value, the students are seeing value as well. And this is absolutely the last slide. And if there are any questions, happy to take those right after this. Now, some of this is starting to drive these, I would say, headline impact, headline benefits for the institutions who are adopting this approach. They're finding the ability to deliver job relevant skills to increase employability of their students. is the key benefit that they are being able to deliver. And we are getting data about student career placements, about starting compensation, and so on and so forth, which speaks to the first point here. Second, online, of course, is cost efficient. So sometimes reducing the cost of delivering credit hours, especially in cost pressures today. Faculty time, by taking some of this teaching and letting students do self-learning, and then faculty time is being redeployed to either mentor students or possibly in research and development, and sometimes in executive education as well. Eventually, when campuses open up, physical infrastructure being saved up allows more student capacity with the same physical infrastructure. And then many universities are using some of the online content to also provide learning opportunities to faculty members as well. And then in terms of just a financial investment, very measurable, significant return on investments is what we are seeing some of these programs deliver. So that's a quick run through of how we are seeing some of the trends around the world. I'll pause with that, and if there are questions, happy to take those. I know some have been sent to me, so maybe I can jump to those right away. So I have a question here from Maggie Davies, which says, do Coursera credits help with university applications? So if I understand the question correctly, I think the question is, if an individual has taken Coursera courses, do they help with their university applications? I would imagine, if a university is looking for a student with a certain profile, and if that student has built up certain extracurricular skills by taking Coursera courses, by taking courses beyond what their institution might have taught them, I think it does help a student in thinking about a fully rounded profile. And while I don't think we have enough data to kind of substantiate this completely, some of the anecdotal data is telling us that this is indeed the case. One of the universities in India which adopted Coursera, I think about 3 years ago, Manipal University, has close to 25,000 students that have been learning on the Coursera platform now for the last 3 years. And some of the data that they've shared with us and the anecdotal kind of information that they've shared with us, of the graduating students who are completing their undergrad, many of them also, after 1 to 3 years of work experience, apply for higher education, possibly within India, outside India as well. And from what they've shared with us, it does help those students to be able to then get admissions into colleges and so on and so forth. So yes, I think not completely data-based answer, but yes, I think anecdotally, I would say that we are seeing that happening for students who are applying for university. Let me pick up a few questions from the chat as well, and I'll take this one. I think I have 2 more minutes to go. So the question here is, can you give us some examples of universities that have partnered with Coursera to have students complete a course as part of a subject? Yes, absolutely. So like I said, there are close to 10,000 programs that are running around the world, and many of these are in Asia as well, Asia Pacific, where, and Manipal is a great example, maybe I can build on that more, is where universities have been using content on the Coursera platform in one of 3 ways, or all 3 ways as well, possibly. 1 and 2 are for credit. So using either a Coursera course, a MOOC course of about 12 to 15 hours as a 4 credit course, which could be in many cases used as 1 credit. So in this particular institution, to do an engineering degree over 4 years, a student has to get 160 credits. And in this particular case, and so 40 credits over 1 year. And in this particular case, it is the university using 1 Coursera course of 12 to 15 hours as 1 credit. And they're selecting some courses that they're not teaching on campus today, usually many new technologies as standalone courses. So students can take those courses, and university gives credits once students show that they have completed those courses. And second, a lot in blended learning. In a marketing class, let's say in an MBA program, the faculty might say, take the Coursera course on digital marketing as a flipped classroom, and as the class progresses over an 8-week period, take this module before you come into class, and so on and so forth. So we are seeing that with many universities. Also in the chat, I know there were some questions about being able to download the Global Skills Index report. And I think, all right, so I think that's been answered. So I think, yeah, I think that's the questions I see. There's also a question around biomedical students who are unable to study at campus. And there are close to, so both in the area of biology, medicine, and technology, I would say. There are close to 560 courses on the Coursera platform. We've launched a healthcare vertical last year, and before that, Coursera was probably not as comprehensively known for our healthcare content. But I would encourage you to just check the website once. You'll see a lot of content in the biomedical domain. And also, in fact, I was in a meeting yesterday. We were talking about biomedical technology, and there's content in that domain as well. I'm being told I'm out of time, and I think I'll pause with that. I hope some of this has been useful. There's some questions which are not answered, but I know I'm out of time, so I'll pause with that and hand this back to the organizers. Thank you so much for your time.